Good evening. I'm Kathy Hurd, your town clerk, and I will call the Appearance Review Board to order at 6:30. Please rise if you can for our Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I'm going to call roll. So when you talk, if you please push your button there on your microphone. Member Bocum.
Member Bockham is present.
Thank you. Member Gill.
Present.
Member Grimes. Present. Member Jenkins is absent. Member Rain.
Present.
So we're going to start with introductions. As I said, I'm Kathy Hurd. I'm your town clerk. I've been with this town now since May. Prior to May, I was with the city of Ocoee as their deputy city clerk of about 9 years. And we'll just go around the table.
I'm Elise Huey. I'm town manager since March. And before that, I've been here almost 7 years.
I'm Meredith Ryan, and I live at 205 Briley Avenue since 2017.
Jonathan Bockham, and I live at 208 Largo Vista since 2020.
Hi, I'm April Grimes. I live on East Gully Avenue, and I've lived here most of my life.
Yeah, hi, I'm John Gill. I've lived in Oakland since 2010. We've been here for 15 years.
Hello, I am Stephanie Vello. I'm the town attorney, and I've been with the town since 2021.
Hello, I'm Sarah Masterson. I'm the town planner. Been with the town since 2022, 23, yeah.
And I'm Brad Cornelius. Sarah and I are with Way Trim, and we are the contracted town planners. And like Sarah said, we've been for the town now for about 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Now we will do our election for chair and vice chair. Do we have a nomination for chair? And you can nominate yourself if you wish.
We're all so new.
Because the chair is no longer.
That's correct. Yeah. Yes, we do.
Does anybody?
Well, you've been on the board the longest. Do you want the chair?
I could be the chair.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Can someone please make that motion?
I have a motion to appoint April to the chair position of the ARB.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Can I get a nomination for vice chair?
John Gill, I will step in for vice chair if no one else wants it. I'll do it.
Okay, can I have a motion for that?
I have a motion for John Gill to be appointed to vice chair.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I will ask the chair to take over the remainder of this meeting.
Okay. Okay, I would like to open the floor for public comment. Is there anyone present who would like to speak? I will close the floor. Okay, we're going to do the approval of the minutes from the last ARB meeting. Are there any questions or comments on the minute?
No comment. No questions.
Okay, can I have a motion for the approval of the minute?
I'll motion for the approval of the minutes from 11/5/2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, our new business is the Briley Farm Phase 2 Plan Development Amendment for Design Review. Brad Cornelius with Wade Trim will present this item.
Thank you. Again, I'm Brad Cornelius with Way Trim, serving as your contracted town planner. So I have a short PowerPoint for both of these to kind of walk you through what's being requested of you all this evening. So as the chair just, actually,
Hang on, I have the wrong one. I'm
That's
so
right.
sorry.
that's all right.
There it is. Okay. Okay.
Just so you all know, everybody in this room is actually for both of those. Doesn't matter what order we go. So what we have is Briley Farm Phase 2 Plan Development Amendment for design review. Just a little bit of background real quick on Briley Farm. As you all are, I'm sure, aware, this project's been around for some time. And it's made up of different pieces and parts. We have Phase 1, which is comprised of 1A, 1B, and Daniels Cove, which you see there on the right of the screen, where those have previously been approved. And just so everybody does recall, the ARB about a year ago, might have been at that meeting you just approved the minutes for, did approve design standards for the houses being built in Phase 1. That's 1A, 1B, and Daniels Cove. So those did come before you. You did make a recommendation of approval, then ultimately they were approved by the town commission. What we have before you this evening now is Phase 2, which is that piece, that larger piece there to the west. Phase 2 is a little bit different than in Phase 1 in that Phase 2 has an actual development agreement already approved for that project that was approved by the town commission in 2022. At that time, it was contained 111 lots, single-family lots. One of the unusual things that came up as we've been talking about Briley, and I can tell you we've been talking about Briley for 3 years since we started working for the town, is that in that 2022 development agreement, it referenced architectural and design standards for Phase 2, and it referenced them as if they existed. They don't exist. They, for some reason, and no, none of us can figure out why or how or what, how it happened, but we confirmed it not only with the town clerk, which was Elise at the time, and we also contacted the developer's attorney at the time, and they all confirmed it never happened. So what's happening now, and since that time, that property's been sold, and now it's owned by Briley Land Holdings. And Mr. Healy's here on behalf of the owner. That is him. They took the property. So they've made some changes to the project as it was approved in 2022. They're reducing the lot count from 111 to 87 lots. They're revising the lot layout. And also they've submitted now design guidelines and architectural standards for the houses to be constructed there. So that's what's before you this evening, is for your consideration for a recommendation whether or not to approve the design guidelines for Phase 2. Again, I didn't change that map. So in Phase 2, let's skip to this one. In Phase 2, similar to in Phase 1, the way this is set up is there's different lot types based on their location, and they all have their own different standards related to their location, which, helps them to be sensitive to their location and to deal with their situation and dealing with the surrounding properties, or in the case of the ones up there by the lake, dealing with the lake. So we have the different lot types. I have them in here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. But we have lot type E, which you see there. And what I'm just showing, I'm not going to go over them, but those are the setback standards and all the different requirements that we would apply when we're reviewing building permits for those lots. Lot type F, again, we have all the standards that are within there that then we would be applying to them. I will say many of them are similar to what you would require anyhow, like for the side setback, which is 7.5 feet. That's what you would have anyhow. So the biggest differences are actually in the actual house designs when we look at this. Lot G, lot type G, which are there up on the lake. And then lot H, which is, the bulk of the rest of all the lots that are out there. And I didn't mention, but you can see on the side there, there's little ideas of kind of structure layout on the different lot types. This is all within that design guideline that was part of your agenda packet. What I've done here, I've just extracted out these pages for your review and discussion tonight. In terms of the architecture and design, this is exactly the same as what was approved for phase one. It's the colonial revival, which is those are the examples they provided, the Florida vernacular, and then the French farmhouse. So all three of those have already been approved by the town, by you all, the Planning and Zoning Board, as well as the Town Commission for development in phase one. So this would provide a consistent pattern of housing and development throughout all of Briley Farm. And then also the images of potential outbuildings and what would be required. Again, this is the same as what has been approved in phase one of this project. So what would happen next is after you all would make your recommendation, whether to approve or to deny or to approve with conditions, those are basically the three options you would have this evening. After you do that, then it's scheduled to go to your Planning and Zoning Board on October 21st. Then they will do the same thing. And then it'll go ultimately to the Town Commission on October 28th and November 10th for them to make the final decision on whether or not this would be approved or not. In terms of our recommendation, we've reviewed it. We've worked quite a bit with the applicant going through this. And we do recommend approval, particularly because it is consistent with the overall pattern of Briley Farm that's already been approved. And we do think it is generally consistent with the intent of your design requirements. So we do recommend approval. That's my brief presentation. If you have questions for me, Sarah and I will do our best to answer your questions. I know the applicant's here and they may want to present, or you can have questions of them as well.
I do have a question about the agenda packet we received. It said it went from 111 to 83 lots.
Thank you for bringing that up. It is, we actually had discussions about that earlier today. The total is 87. 4 of the lots are being remained owned by the Vos family. So they are within the design standards, but there was different numbers that we got submitted, but we did confirm today 87 is the right number.
What's the average lot size? Is it like a
go to
quarter
the-
acre, a little more than a quarter?
Bobby, can you?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the 100-foot wide lots are like typically adjacent to the nature preserve and also on lakefront lots.
Right.
Then the bulk of the internal lots are on the internal streets that are 80-foot wide, and that's 90 square foot depth.
So none of them are less than 70 or 80 feet wide?
Yeah, we don't have any lots less than 80.
Oh, okay.
Right. And that was one of the big changes from the previous plan there. I think there was some 45-foot lot, there were some much narrower lots that brought up the lot count. So they removed those smaller lots and made the lots larger. And also just for the board's information, 70-foot minimum lot width is the town standard minimum lot width.
Yeah, we were the side setbacks.
Mhm.
I do have a question regarding whether Street A lines up with Briley directly. It was a little challenging to see on I don't know if anyone has a plot, but that was one of my questions regarding traffic and hoping to avoid a Civitas Road thoroughfare like there is in Briley Farm or in Oakland Park. And then the secondary question I had was regarding pedestrian access or potential golf cart access To me, there's a few places that make sense, mostly between lot 78 and 79, but I would like to see if that's something that we could discuss.
Before we get into that, I would like to clarify what is before you here this evening is the designs. This decision shouldn't really have anything to do with traffic or pedestrian access or golf cart access. And you shouldn't be approving or denying the signs based on considerations related to traffic.
That understanding, we'll just offer up. We did intersect the street, so like street A goes into Briley. Then also, as part of our developers agreement that we have with the town, like we're supposed to provide like a trail down Jefferson. That's part of the whole trail network. That's, I think, what's the trail we're doing in phase one? The Cove.
On Vic.
Vic, yes, through the Vic right away.
Mhm.
Then there's also part of that developers agreement where we're doing some, there's our dedications of nature preserve and then also park. I think we have over 15 acres for the developers agreement that we're dedicating the and the nature preserve. So we also have park features, which we're not here to talk today, but that's our intent is to follow the developers agreement.
I'd like to just confirm that the design standards for phase two, there's no change from phase one. It's the same design standard.
Yeah, it's the same houses. Well, so the only change is they did drop one of them. Yeah, it was one, but nobody really liked that one. That drop. So, but it is the same. The ones that they are moving forward with completely match phase one.
Do any members have any additional questions?
No, I'm good.
Good. Is there anyone present who would like to speak on this item further? Then I will close the floor. Can I have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the Briley Farms Phase Two Plan Development Agreement, Development Amendment Design Review.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we're going to look at the Fourth Street Village Plan Development Amendment Design Review. Brad Cornelius with Wade Trim will present this item.
Number two. So this one is actually the first time you're seeing this project, but this is called the 4th Street Village. And it is, and it's for you for design review. It's at the southeast corner of Tubb Street and State Road 50. The owner is Oakland West 50, which is again is Mr. Healy, and Gemini Land Development, which is again Bobby, are the representatives for this project. The property is about 21 acres in size. It's vacant, and what's before you tonight again is the design review for this project. A little background again, here's the location of the property there on that southeast corner with the turnpike on the back. So this project was one that has previously been approved by the town commission last year in April of 2024 under ordinance 2024-04 for a plan development and development agreement. Why you didn't see this one last year was that they did not include with this PD at that time their design plans for the buildings, and so there wasn't anything for y'all to review at that point in time. What's happened, and so what you see up here is the layout of the project that was originally approved by the town commission back in 2024. After that, they came back, the developer, Mr. Healy and his team came back with a revision to that plan, which what you see there is the updated site plan. And you can see it does reorient many of the buildings. One of the areas that you see is there was a entertainment venue down on the southwest corner. That's now up at the southeast corner. It's up now at the northwest corner of the property. Actually along 50 on the east side of the property, the previous plan, those buildings were kind of set back with the parking in the front. Now they put the buildings to the front and parking behind. So, some definitely improvements to it. The other big change is the multifamily component, which is the piece on the southern end of the property, the horseshoe building that you see there. Under the previous plan, I'll go switch back real quick. The multifamily here was also the piece that was south of that east-west road in separate buildings. And what they're coming now is they brought it in as one building as part of this development. So they did change. The amount of development, again, just for your information, is 190 multifamily units within that multifamily building there, and approximately 73,500 square feet of commercial office, which would be in the buildings north of that east-west driveway or roadway going through the project. So it's a big project, and it's an interesting project. So what they did submit building plans and elevations for your consideration and review. So this is the rendering of the project from that corner at the southeast corner there, looking back into the project. I will tell you, the architects who did this, they're also here with us this evening. So if you have questions like that, they can answer them for y'all, which is good. And so there's different building types as we go through here. And you can see the key sheet there on the bottom kind of give you an idea. So this is for building A, which would be off of 50 on the east-western side of the project near where the event venue is. That gives you an idea of the character. There's the other renderings, elevations for building type A. And then we move to building type B. That's also there along 50. It's one of the ones that runs parallel to 50, set off 50 a little ways. These are all commercial buildings that we're looking at. Again, those are the elevations, and there's the renderings of the elevations there for building type B. For building type C, these are one of the two buildings that will front on State Road 50. They're on the east side of the property. Again, so you can see the elevations there. You can see part of this project is having activated outdoor spaces as part of this, which is, I think, something we're pretty happy to see that as part of this project. And again, elevations for what that building will look like. Then this would be the elevation E, I think. And this is the other building that will be fronting on 50. So same idea here. And there are the renderings for elevations for that building. And then this is the next small commercial building coming off down there to the side. Again, a consistent design theme through this project, which is beneficial. Again, then the renderings for the buildings, for that building. This is now the multifamily building. These are of what that'll look like. It'll be 4 stories, which is the allowed maximum height. One of the things I will tell you, when this went through the process in 2024, one of the conditions of the town commission was, which they followed through with, was to push this multifamily to the back south side of the property near the turnpike. So one, not only push the multifamily away from State Road 50, but also put it closer to the turnpike and allow for that greater height at 4 stories. Those other buildings that we looked at, none of them exceed 3 stories. They're all 3 stories less. I think most of them are like at 2 stories. So that's what that is. So this still follows that intent and condition of the commission to push the multifamily in the back and have that height to the back. These are the renderings of that elevation for that multifamily building. I'll move on, and some more elevations of that. One of the things I'll say about the multifamily building is that it is larger than what your design code calls for. Your design code for an apartment building, which this would have to fall under, it has a maximum building footprint of 12,000 square feet, floor plate of 12,000 square feet. This is approximately 50,000 square feet as it's being proposed, so it is larger. We as staff, we're not too concerned about that because it's integrated into the overall project and it's not just a standalone thing. Also with the depth of that project, the restriction, the maximum depth that your code allows is 150 feet, 180 feet, I'm sorry, and it's approximately 228 feet deep, if you measure the greatest depth on it. But again, as serving as your staff, we don't have any objections or concern with it as it's part of this overall project for the multifamily. But I did want to make sure that was, you all were aware of that. And just stepping back real quick, on buildings B, C, and D that we went through, those also exceed the allowed width of a building. A large store, commercial building, your code allows 150-foot width. And building B is at 204 feet, C is at 215 feet, and D is at 224 feet. So again, they all exceed it, but again, we have, as your staff, we don't object to that because again, we think it integrates with the overall project. All the other buildings that they're proposing all meet the dimension requirements within your code for that. This is the last space. This is the event space. That will be up near the corner of State Road 50 and Tubb Street. And so there'll be a small stage as part of that. There'll be retail, restaurant, cafes bordering it on either side, and being a gathering space for the residents of Oakland. And so that's the rendering of what that would look like. And again, more detailed rendering of what the buildings would look like within that event space. And like I said earlier, that event space initially was down in the southeast corner, and they've now moved it up to the northeast corner, or northwest corner. And basically, you know, as we look at it, is it gives it more exposure, more attractiveness for people who want to come here and spend money in the town of Oakland. Again, more renderings of that elevation of that entertainment area or venue. Some more. They gave a lot of these elevations for the entertainment venue, which I appreciate. But you can see that the layout is definitely an open, you know, public activated space for people to gather and be part of the community that's there, which is consistent also just again under your comp plan for the mixed use activity center, which is what this is in terms of your comp plan, provide these kind of active public spaces and not just vanilla commercial projects. So this really gets to that intent of your comp plan as well. So again, next steps, you all will make a recommendation today, whether it's approve with conditions, or deny. Your recommendation then go to the Planning and Zoning Board on October 21st. Then their recommendation will go to Town Commission on October 28th with a final decision on November 10th. So again, Sarah and I are here to answer any questions, and the development team is here as well.
All right, I do have a couple things. I love the change. I like it a lot better than the original. Having the apartments together makes perfect sense. The couple of buildings that are wanting to be made bigger, is there like a square footage that we're still staying within in those buildings? Because they can go up to 3 stories.
Correct, yes, sir.
So are they just like flattening it out and just staying within the square footage that's allowed for the building?
Yeah, so the ones, and then to make it easier, if looking at the site plan, the 2 that front 50 that are the L-shaped, those are 2 of the 3 that exceed that width. And so, yes, theoretically, they could go a little bit deeper or potentially higher. But I think what happens here, which is what your code does talk about, is creating somewhat of a street wall along 50. And I think by having that greater width, you start to establish that on that part. Now you don't, and then even with what they're doing on the event side, all those buildings are fine. There's no issues with their sizes. But again, it gives that street wall frontage there. The third building that is a little bit wider is the one in the middle, in that little middle horseshoe, that's a commercial building, sent back off of 50. That one's also slightly more. But again, I think for this project, at least from a staff perspective, I think the layout of the buildings makes better sense. And also keeping the scale down in terms of height on the front was also, I think the town commission was very sensitive to.
Can you maybe explain to ARB what a plan development is?
Absolutely, yeah. So the plan development here in the town, it's a zoning tool, and it's a zoning district that we have. And in the plan development zoning district, one of the great benefits of it, it allows for developers to come in with alternative designs and standards for their projects that at the end would get a better project for the town. There's a benefit to the town as well as to the developer and what they're happening. So that's why we bring these through you all, because if we held them to the strict letter of the law, this would look completely different. These would be small little, it would look like an office park with small little buildings because of the way the town code restricts it. So under the PD process, it allows you all to make a recommendation and ultimately P&Z, then the town commission, to approve these alternatives. And so that's the purpose of the PD. It also gives, because it comes along with a development agreement, which then gives certainty to the town as well as the developer about what's going to happen. And I can tell you one of the reasons why this is before you, because the previous PD, it didn't match. So we had the discussion and said we need to come back through and get a new one approved. So it gives the town definitely more certainty and we know what's coming here at the end of the day. So I hope that helped.
I appreciate the mixed use part of the project. I am a little bit concerned about the frontages on 50. When I was looking at the agenda, the elevations that face Highway 50, to me, they're a little bit flat. So yeah, so for example, the north elevation at the top, to me, I'm a little surprised that there's not more code requirements for like storefront or openings on that face.
Well, Ms. Krenz, what I'll say to that, there are discussions in the code about that, not having like just a flat back and having two faces, but that's the request they're making through the PD is not to have that on. And if that's something you as a board feel strongly about, you could make that as the condition of whatever recommendation you would make, that you would like to see that change, and then that would move forward to P&Z and commission.
I would like to suggest that the elevations that front Highway 50 follow the code requirements for opening.
I'll second that.
So generally what the code says is on that back side, you need to have doors, windows. You have to have it basically look like a false front. Because
Excuse me, we need to have anybody speak in the mic, please, for the audience on Zoom.
Steve Healy, I'm the owner of the project. So one of the things I was saying is that like AI. Anyway, so one of the challenges is, when you have the back of that and you start adding windows to it, and you start adding glass doors and things, it does become a challenge. That's why you see most commercial buildings still have typically a back side of some sort that's may not be as attractive as the front, but it's just because when you're laying out in space planning and you're putting in offices and different things that you're going to have in storefronts, and then you have to take in deliveries and other things that you want to have potentially hidden, it is much more of a challenge. And I'll be honest with you, that's costs that, are not great either, but it does create two challenges for sure. So, I mean, this is much more typical of the back of a building for getting deliveries or, putting a proper space plan together. So I would prefer not to add such a glass to the rear.
Do we know what the code requirement is currently?
I can't tell you off the top of my head what the actual amount would be. We can look that up for you. But one of the things I will say too is the way this overall property was envisioned by the town, and this goes back to the EDSA study and everything, and kind of how this was original layout, is to make the focus of these buildings internal and try to engage that internal east-west, back to the site. Make that east-west piece to become somewhat of a Main Street kind of operation. So, it's one of these situations where your code does have the requirement that we don't want to see flat backs of buildings on a roadway. But then we have the other part of your code or general development intent to make this property have its focus inward as opposed to outward. Because basically, there's not a whole lot of pedestrian traffic on State Road 50. And the hope would be it would get generated interior to the project and that kind of thing. But it would be a clearly reasonable recommendation for you all to make as a board if you think that is.
Is there a way to add like columns or other architectural features that perhaps wouldn't be windows? I have a retail store in downtown Winter Garden, so I understand the back of house shipping very, very much. However, we don't have a back of house entrance and we have to bring everything through front of house. So I think there are ways for us to discuss making it look more welcoming on State Road 50. As we build out the town of Oakland on State Road 50, I would love for the historic look to continue as you've done in your other projects. So I'd love to hear what we could discuss.
Is supposed plus what the and for it is a little challenge plan layout there interior space having two front, and I've seen it all over the place. We're trying to bring the highway to the front of the house, getting nice on the other side of the highway. It is very challenging for them having from people. They're going to walk at the they see it, and transit becomes a little bit this deep fragment right here of where the let's just say the scale of the building, but they have a better rendering.
I've got it. Yeah.
Go back to it.
landscape. I think this is a little bit better. They're looks like blank walls. I think you're just gonna try it out. Blank walls, but you can see a lot more better than that we have to do with the fire by count.
Mhm, mhm.
Where it's like you have landscape 50 tops that all feel like
Do you know what the landscape buffer is, the width of it?
I think it's set up like you can see like the variation.
Will signage for there, I'm just calling this out because I'm not seeing external facing signage. Are you planning to do signage on like a pillar sign with multiple locations from 50? Or will there be signage both internally and externally? Because I think that's part of what's making it look um, not so polished from 50 on the site plan. But I understand as a business owner why you would want your sign above your store. But with large landscaping like that as well, it may not be super visible.
Actually, Brad, I don't know if you all have been to Wire Road in Windermere. So I have another office building over there. You know, Wire. So if you look at it, they have so it's Park Ridge Gotha, Wire Road, brick buildings, beautiful.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But the back of the buildings, the answer is you could have signage on the back of the building, but everything was focused inward. So like all our signage, everybody else has signage in there is, you come in the parking lot and then you see, oh wow, there's all these businesses within this office park. So the only people that, to my knowledge, even Brad, that even used the rear sign, you could have, but I never did, is the side of the building. That was it. A couple of people have used the sides, but overall the focus was to really get people in there. It's as attractive landscaping wise around it. I'll give you an example. Even where our sign is, in the one building, I've got like 6 cypress trees that you can't see it anyway, because they wanted it landscaped around. Kind of hide the buildings a little bit, make it pretty. Then you come in, that's where you're like, whoa, wow, all this is here. It is a little bit more like that, and that's a good example of
And Ms. Grimes, the width of that landscape buffer on 50 per their plans is 12. The 12-foot landscape buffer. But then you have the right-of-way outside of that. That could be green space as well. But their landscape buffer on their property is 12 feet on them.
Yeah, I think my worry is that these buildings, they're probably gonna be like 8 feet tall, so even a 12-foot buffer, a larger buffer, you'd still see these buildings from Highway 50. So I do think there should be, maybe not, like I understand the functionality of a tenant space, but I do think there should be more of an emphasis on design in some areas, not just a large blank looking wall.
As long as it's not.
I'm suggesting that the elevations now should have more of an emphasis on design, like the other faces in the property. Like I like the apartment building. I like the look of this. I just think there should be like a little bit more on those faces because that's driving by. The 2150 and then this event center. And maybe this event center will be hidden by the trees. But like in this rendering, I can see a large part of the event center and then the two buildings to the left. So I personally have an issue with the faces on Highway 50.
There's sign. Not elevation, part of it from, and it's intended the ball skyline, the village of what I mean, camera, not that whole, there is no elevation. But again, right.
Well, the state right away, yeah.
Yeah, stay right.
Right.
I think just dimension in general on the backside is what I would like to see more of. I don't know if it's like beadboard, like different textures. It just looks really flat. I I think I would love to see what that would look like. Especially if there's no, I'm sorry, especially if there's no intended walkway back there. I agree from a retail perspective, you don't want people really hanging, but it just looks like it doesn't entice me to come in, which is the whole point, right? I also think it could be interesting, and I'm not telling you how to do your job, but I would love to see if we could potentially pivot this U and have the like back of this ceiling, if you will, over the stage face 50. If that is something that our agreement would allow, because I think that's really your driver, right? You want people to come there. You want people to dine there and go to concerts there. And I just think it would be lovely if we could get more people to see it, but maybe you're anticipating your traffic's coming from Claremont and they're going to see it that way anyways. Yeah. So there is an entrance and exit from like side stage.
I'd like to see more detail. Is there a requirement for the landscape buffer? Like a-
There's a general requirement, but again, because we're at a PD, it's whatever gets approved as part of it. So, I mean, ideally, typically it'll be 20 feet, 20-foot buffer. But that's where we run into issues with the way your code's written. Then that conflicts where your code says in the urban corridor district, we want the buildings to be pushed up to the edge of the right of way. So we have conflicts. This is something we have to work through as we continue to work with the town. But under your PD and under your urban corridor design district, what it calls for is for these buildings to get pushed right up to the edge of the right of way. So if we apply the 20-foot PD thing, well, now we're in conflict with the design standard that says it's got to get pushed up. So that's why through the PD, we come through with basically negotiated, this is what would work based on those two conflicting requirements that we have. And that is, I will be, I mean, completely honest with you all, that is a challenge we have here in the town with these design standards. There is a lot of internal conflict. And that's why we see a lot of these PDs coming through, because that's the best way for us to handle these internal conflicts, is establishing design standards for this project specific, outside of what the standards would typically.
It's a double-edged sword. You know what I mean? I'd love to flip it back the other way, but that.
Real quick. So there's people online that can't hear you guys well. If you could come closer to the mic, that would be great.
At,
On the vertical design, did in our side, we did a traffic study, and people will be, I mean, one of the reasons why they made us split the buildings is because they said maybe people will be 30, 35 miles an hour. You don't get to see that wall all the time. I mean, I understand. We'll see it today only because the building is flat and painted it on a piece of paper, but on real life, the building is not going to be that tall. And to actually perceive the wall of a back of house, and we'll make some differences in the elevation to make it look like it's not a back of house. But keep in mind, I mean, the landscape and some lighting, because it is a back of house. I mean, I can't, and it's got to be secure. I mean, for a retailer, you want to have one door to get in, you know, secondary door of service. Right, to make the place tight and secure.
So will there be any signage on the elevation facing 50 so people going by know what's there? Or is there going to be, so there will be some design element there?
That is also very whatever he.
Okay, so I think I would like to see more texture on the facade. I think that is a good compromise. So how would we do that?
If you want to make a motion to approve with the condition that they enhance the texture of the 50, favorable 50 facing walls project, you could add that as a condition too.
Any other comments? I would like to,
Oh, excuse me, someone other than the chair should make the motion and then second on the motion.
Motion. I make a motion to add additional textures to the State Road 50 facing buildings. Would anyone like to second?
Excuse me, is this a motion to approve? You didn't say approve.
Approve with this adjustment.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
This meeting is adjourned at 7:27 PM.